if he can keep up his winning streak. It's going to be Amnesiac on the paladin against Noblord on the Jade druid. We've seen Amnesiac on stream like 3 or 4 times now, something like that. He just kept running into other heavy hitters in the Swiss bracket, and he's playing a really aggressive lineup. His warrior 3-0'd Ray C in a Swiss round yesterday that we saw on stream. An aggressive Murloc Paladin can do some serious work against Jade Druid if it gets on the board early.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Murlocs can get out of control pretty fast. War Leaders and the Megasaurs and the Rockpool Hunters actually. It's one of those key cards that you want to have as soon as possible. One thing that is very important in the dynamic of the top 16 is the fact that players had time to study the deck list of their opponents, because that means you might actually change the way you were playing. I mean, so far.
Oh yeah, I think that especially since there's so much diversity in the meta right now, and there are so many classes that have multiple viable archetypes, now that you definitively know what archetypes your opponent is playing, that can definitely affect your ban strategy, what deck you lead with, and then what you counter with.
Yeah, definitely. For an example, Amnesiac is playing double Golaka Crawlers in his Paladin, which is not something that you see every single time. The same goes for the Rallying Blade. He plays 2 of them and no Truce of the Champions, which is not a surprise when you have 2 of the Blades. But at the same time, he also is playing the Wicker Flame Burn Brist. So he was anticipating a very aggressive metagame. What we can say about the druid from Noblord, though?
So Noblord does have one anti-weapon tech. He has the Gluttonous Ooze, which will be really useful against aggressive decks. And then it's pretty much a standard Jade Druid other than the yogg-saron at the top end. Not every Jade Druid plays Yogg, but if you get into a sticky situation and you need a panic button, sometimes Yogg's there for you.
Yeah, although so far on stream, I think we didn't see one successful Yogg.
They've been a bit mediocre, which is pretty much the story of Yogg for the last year or so, ever since it was nerfed. He's not been the MVP, but you know, he's still good enough to put into play occasionally.
Yeah, that's true. All right, well, 10-1 Jade Spirit. That seems like a decent choice every single time, especially against aggressive decks, and you can perceive Amnesiac's Murloc Paladin as an aggressive deck because it's based upon early game strategy. The Tidecaller into Rockpool Hunter is a very aggressive opener that sometimes just shuts down an entire deck. And in this case, the Jade Spirit with a 1/1 minion shuts down that play.
Yep, challenges Hydrologist if it were to come out, Rockpool Hunter, and you didn't see a 1-drop on 1, so you are assuming that Amnesiac doesn't have one in hand. It's a bit awkward because Noblord is sort of leading himself open to just hero powering on turn 2, and then he may need to innervate into Nourish on turn 3 just to find some more resources. But Jade Druid has a lot of interactivity in the early game. They do have a lot of stabilizing tools like Feral Rage and Earthen Scales. So if you're able to shut down the early push from the Paladin, then the Jade Druid is absolutely going to win in the long game.
Yeah, that is correct. But now look at that. Noblord picked, again, the same combination of cards that he used in the previous turn, which is Innervate and Jade Spirit, and he has the option to use it again to build up the pressure from the beginning. Unfortunately, that means that he will miss the turn 3 most likely, because first of all, he doesn't really have that many options when it comes to 3 mana. He can, of course, pick up Wild Growths, Jade Idols, and Jade Blossoms, which would be ideal. But other than that, it looks kind of slow, because then next turn would have to commit to a swipe. He can pick up another one, another Jade Spirit, and then on turn 5, most likely Nourish to draw cards, because he already commits to Innervates to board control.
Yeah, well, Innervate Jade Spirit would be really nice this turn. I am also looking at just a hero power. Jade Spirit plus the hero power into the Golaka Crawler. You can Innervate Nourish on 3, and then go into Jade Spirit on 4 if you Nourish for cards. Or you have a little bit more flexibility if you do Nourish for mana. But Noblord decided board presence is above all the most important thing in the early game. So he's going to go ahead and use that last Innervate, the second Jade Spirit, and, well, now he's just going to have to get some good draws.
Usually it's a very good decision against Paladins because they lack interaction in the beginning of the game. Usually it's, let's say, Doomsayer on turn 2, and you just, you know, press the wait button.
Yeah.
That's about it. But luckily for Amnesiac, he did opt to play 2 Rallying Blades in his deck, and he picks it up on the crucial turn 3. to battle for the board. Without that Relying Blade, it was really looking grim from Amnesiac. But now he's able to gain some tempo, build up the board, his own board position in the upcoming turn, and then make a comeback. Especially with that blessing. Blessing of King is actually a huge deal for this matchup. Because Druids have, historically speaking, big problem to deal the damage to the minions, right? They need to use the swipe, they need to use the hero power, they need to sacrifice the minions. Otherwise, they don't have a direct removal like they had before. Mulch was really mediocre, but it was used because that was the hard removal that Druid needed at that point in the game.
Yeah, it was all they had. But now that Mulch is rotated, nobody's playing Naturalize because card draw is such a premium. So the Druid has trouble with boards of mid-range sized minions. They can deal with small stuff. If big stuff comes out, it's usually late enough that their golems are large enough to fight them, but in the mid-game, things can get a little bit sticky for the Jade Druid, and that's what is looking like it's going to be the case for Noblord. If Amnesiac can build up a board, Noblord just doesn't have the resources right now to fight it, but a turn to Nourish could be what he needs.
Seems like a good turn to Nourish. Well, basically you have nothing else to do. For Amnesiac, it was a really decent decision to pick up the Consecration because of the fact that his opponent now is going to play really buffed up minions. Whatever he was going to play will be at least 3/3. So the value of the Consecration comes down in value as the game progresses. And in this case, he's still able to clean up a next Jade Golem with the swing of his weapon because it's a 3 HP minion, and he can develop Diet Collar alongside the Megazone Extend to build up the board presence that he was lacking from the beginning of this match. There's the Nourish. There's the draw. Jade Behemoth for next turn. Jade Behemoth for next turn, and an Earthen Scale.
Scales. All right, so some nice draws picked up for Noblord. I was kind of wondering if he was going to Nourish for mana first, and then maybe Nourish for draw second, but I definitely like it better this way, because if you do pick up something that you can play on turn 6 other than Nourish, like Jade Behemoth, then you're in a much better position, and you can Nourish later.
If he would just go for a ramp up with that Nourish, he most likely puts himself in a position when he needs to commit to another Nourish. And that is a huge tempo loss. And we have seen that Noblord did commit to the opposite side of the spectrum in this matchup because he sacrificed a lot of card advantage on the beginning of the game with double innovates.
And Amnesiac actually has fairly good cards to go into the late game and actually fight the Druid where they shine best. Amnesiac has Curator, a copy of Primordial Drake, and a copy of Ragnaros Lightlord. So he's got some tech cards in the early game for Pirates, and then he does actually have also some cards that make him very well equipped to fight more controlling decks in the late game.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, now the game kind of stopped in its tracks, right? Amnesiac has to make a really well-thought decision of what to do this turn. It seems like a decent option for the Blessing of Kings, because even if that Megazord trades into the Behemoth, you don't want it to be left at 1 HP, because that is just like a death wish for a swipe, right? Especially with the hero power that he did, the adapt power for the Murloc that he did opt to choose. So he commits to something else. It's basically the same outcome. It buffs minions, right?
I love this. The adapt onto the Murloc Tidecaller that death rattled into the 2 1/1 saplings means that this is probably the strongest Tarim that Amnesiac can hope to get offensively. Tarim can be used later on in the game defensively when there are large Jade Golems on the board, but there is also the chance that Amnesiac picks up an additional Tarim later on with a Stonehill Defender.
Yes, that is true.
And there is a chance that if this play works out the way he hopes it will, the game won't even get to that point.
I like the fact that you pointed out that this is a offensive Tarim, and in most situations, this is the way you're going to win the matchup. Because, again, Noblord is in a situation when he needs to use removal to deal with those pesky 3/3 minions. And it's really hard to deal with multiple of those because you don't have 4 Ravs. And you don't even have the time to use those Ravs and develop your own board. So you can't get back onto it.
Noblord does have the tools over a couple of turns to remove this board, but it's going to be a combination of Swipe plus Primordial Drake, and at that point, Amnesiac will have continued to develop his board, so it will never be fully clear.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about what if you don't develop the Behemoth and just set up a Swipe into Primordial Drake? Because that's one of the options when you can clear all those pesky Stonewall minions. Of course, you're gonna get hit for a lot of damage that turn, but all in the end, it doesn't matter because the Paladin's a slower deck, so even if you're just lingering on 5 HP, you most likely will not die to a burst damage because your opponent just doesn't have it.
Yeah, you can stabilize very low, especially since Amnesiac doesn't have true silver champions. He has 2 copies of Rallying Blade, which is a little bit less damage over time, but there's really no other burst for the Paladin.
There was a small consideration for the Blessing of Kings to be kept for the Wicker Flame Burn Bristle.
Oh,
because
it's so gross when it happens.
The Divine Shield then becomes really valuable, but at the same time, you have such a commanding position right now on the board. You can't really just, ignore the Blessing of Kings on Tavern being a power play.
Amnesiac is an absolutely fantastic player at identifying what his role is in a game. In this matchup, he is the aggressor. If he were up against a more aggressive deck, he would have to be playing more defensively. But
yes,
Jade Druid shines in the long game. So Amnesiac knows that he needs to put on as much pressure as possible and try to close this game out quickly. And every play that he's made has really very well reflected that.
Yeah, he was very much committed to his plan from the beginning of the game. It's actually super cool to witness players like that because it's not easy to have a game plan for an entire match, just, straight out, planned out since the turn 1.
Yeah. You're really tempted to deviate from it, especially if your opponent plays something you're not expecting. You can get a little bit nervous, things get a little bit hasty maybe, and you make some plays you normally wouldn't. But Amnesiac is in a very comfortable position. The Primordial Drake will clear up these 4 minions, and now Big Daddy Tyrion is coming down on the board, and Noblord has a Gluttonous Ooze in his deck, but it is not yet in his hand, so he's going to be very much looking for that.
Yeah. The problem is that the Tyrion doesn't really contest the Primordial Drake. So, and there's no follow-up for Amnesiac to clear it off. So this might be a little bit awkward. The damage is done, but Noblord is still at comfortable 20 HP. Ooh. How many spells do we see? Double Innovates, Double Nourishes, and Swipe,
Feral Rage,
and Earth Scales. 7 spells.
Okay, so Yogg's getting pretty big. I don't think it's quite time for Yogg just yet. Maybe post-Gadgetson, it would be a little bit stronger, but Noblord's already used a lot of his really solid Gadgetson resources. Wild Growth is still left, which would give excess mana, so you draw 3 cards essentially off of Wild Growth, which with Gadgetson on the board. But he still has the second Nourish in hand, so Noblord's not really hurting for resources quite yet.
That is true. So I was speaking about the fact that Tyrion is not contesting the Primordial Drake, but Amnesiac had actually 3 outs in his deck, which would buff the Tyrion to a big enough size to actually just kill the Primordial Drake, and that would be the second Blessing of the King.
You got other games on the mind, Lothar?
Yeah, I like those games, and of course 2 Spikered Steeds.
Yeah, I like those games too. They seem pretty fun. I've been watching a little bit of them, but haven't played much.
I'm a big fan of Players Unknown's Battleground.
Hearthstone takes up all the time. Gotta prepare for the big tournaments.
New expansion is just behind the corner.
I'm actually really excited about it.
Yeah. I'm excited as well. Gonna be some cool stuff for sure. So, additional 3 spells. Well, actually 2, because the excess mana is being left in the hand. So it's either a setup for Gadgeton. It's kind of telegraphic, right? Because if you would have no Gadgeton in hand, you would use the excess mana. Mm-hmm. But if you don't use the excess mana, that says, aha, I have a Gadgeton in my hand.
I think that Amnesiac can probably anticipate a Gadgetzin at this point regardless, just because there are 2 in Noblord's deck. And he's drawn quite a bit of the deck so far with the 2 copies of Nourish. So saving the excess mana is a really smart move. Allows you to draw an exit card without having to expend mana with the Gadgetzin.
Yeah.
But this may just be Yogg time because Noblord has nothing to deal with the Rag Light Lords. So let's see if Noblord's been praying hard enough and if Yogg can turn this game around.
So I'm guessing the microphone is being used to communicate with the deity that he is praying to.
Oh, absolutely. RNGesus is here and witnessing.
All right, good thing that he is on the TeamSpeak then. All right, let's see the play-by-play. He can attack with his face. Sap is being played on a minion that is on a 1/1. It's actually better in case the Tyrion can get killed. Shadow form, ooh, I have no clue what just happened because he is clicking all those cards. We need to instruct players not to do that. Please.
Just let it happen, Logan.
Let it happen. Shadowlord Death kills the Tyrion, okay. What's next? Savage Roar. That is the damage. My God. Freezing Trap. Ironhide. That's about it.
Okay.
But
That
that's
was pretty
actually-
good.
That is pretty insane because those 3 small minions, the pawns,
Protect the king.
I think those are named Pawns of the
They're
King.
called pawns.
Are soaking a lot of damage. And the Freezing Trap, unfortunately, is not that great unless you would have the option to kill the 1/3.
Yeah. You know what? It's good enough. It's more than enough. A Yogg that gives you some board presence, deals with some of your opponent's minions, and doesn't die. That's a pretty good Yogg.
Well, the Vaporize is actually a big deal. That is
That sure
actually
is if the Rag Light Lord goes face.
That is actually a really big deal. The fact that he has Shadow form is also a very strategically sound decision, I wanted to say, by Yogg to play it. Because it basically buys him a lot of time when it comes to the board control.
Well, that's the only Hunter card we're going to see in the top 16, unfortunately.
Hunter did have a decent win rate. I mean, decent. 42
It
win
had some
rate in
representation, at least.
Warlock, though, was pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Hopefully some new things from the new set will revitalize the class a little bit.
I don't. To be honest, I don't mind lacking that the Warlock is actually lacking in the metagame.
Okay, so the Rag Light Lord heal on the Stegodon is actually really big for Noblord because now he can swipe away the Rag Light Lord and then start to deal with the rest of the board. It's all a lot less scary when there's not an 8/4 there.
Yeah, definitely. And he has the option to ooze the Ashbringer.
It's looking pretty good now, actually. He's got so many resources, and Amnesiac's just... He's fallen behind a little bit if Noblord can deal with this board.
Yeah. It's really not looking... Like, it's not yet decided who
No, not
has
at
the
all.
advantage. The second Tyrion is actually a big swing. But definitely wasn't looking great for Noblord before the Yogg was
Or
being
the YOLO Yogg.
If the Yogg would just purify himself, that's GG. Right, well, there's the removal on the Rag.
Can make some good use out of the Shadow Form hero power. I believe it's called Mind Spike. But I could be wrong there. You don't get to Shadow Form too much in this game.
I can't really say. I was like,
Yeah, it's Mind Spike.
okay. There's the second Blessing of Kings, which does help with pulling out Murlocs out of the deck, but is it that important right now? Most likely not.
Well, the Murlocs he's got aren't the really high-impact Murlocs we're used to seeing from the Finja 5 that used to be in every water
new
build
boys
deck.
band?
Huh?
That's a new boys band? Ninja 5?
Yeah, the Finja 5.
Ninja 5, yeah,
It was,
okay. Is it like an NSYNC, but...
Yeah, oh, they're touring currently, which is why Finja's currently playing with all these other little guys.
So he has stealth because of the paparazzis?
Oh, yeah. He needs to be very careful. His privacy is very important to him.
Makes sense, makes sense. Second turn comes down after the ooze was being played because the first one was killed.
Yeah.
So that's kind of okay for Amnesiac. 2 Feral Rages were played. 1 Elfin Scale was played.
Yep.
So only one way of generating armor right now for Noblord because he lost the ability to use the hero power. So he is at the 26 HP and he might actually still lose the game. But for now, he's in a commanding position.
The Finja is always threatening to bring out additional Murlocs, but without a Gentle Megasaur or a Sunkeeper Tarim to buff up those Murlocs additionally, if you just pull out Vilefin Inquisitor or Murloc Tidecaller this late in the game, you're not really going to be getting much use out of them.
That is correct. All right, well, some damage is being dealt to the face. There's a commanding position on board for Noblord right now.
He's playing really well around the Finja itself, getting kills on minions and pulling out the Murlocs. That's why he traded 2 damage to run the 5 attack golem into the Murloc instead of the gluttonous ooze.
Yeah.
Because the ooze then would have been susceptible to the Finja.
That is true. And now those Murlocs being pulled out of the deck are not really that impactful because even if they are war leaders, there's 1 war leader, it doesn't really do much. It's just a 3/3 minion that are gonna get killed by the ooze, most likely.
It puts stats on board, which is always a good thing. But after this war leader is gone, the board's looking a lot less scary. Noblord has first development after this, and he's going to be able to clean up the majority of these threats.
The problem for Amnesiac is the fact that he used his end game already. His only end game left is basically Curator and Primordial Drake. He used the spike, the Sunkeeper Tarim. He used both Blessing of Kings. He used 1 Spike-Root Steed. And he still has like Golaka Crawler in his deck, a Tidecaller, a Hydrologist.
A lot of weak draws.
Yes, definitely. Now you can see the power of the Shadow form, killing an 8/2 minion.
Yeah, when you don't actually have to spend 3 mana playing Shadow form, it turns out it's a pretty good card.
Yeah. Maybe Dynamance is actually pretty good as well.
Oh, let's not get carried away here.
Unfortunately, it requires beasts.
Yeah, unfortunately, nobody plays Hunter, so we may never know.
All right, that's it. The first game goes to Noblord. He shakes his head. I have no clue why. Maybe he just doesn't
The happy shake.
believe it. I don't know.
That's the shake of first blood. Victory shake.
Uh-huh.
No, but that's a big win for Noblord. Getting first on the board means that because it's last hero standing, your opponent then has the opportunity to counterpick. And just the way it works out with best of 5, the person who gets the first win should then be favored if it goes back and forth and ends up at a 3-2.
Yeah, definitely correct. All right. What is the next pick for Amnesiac? He plays Pirate Warrior. So it seems like a decent choice against Jade Druids in general.
Yeah, I would say it's probably better than the Priest, but both are actually rather even matchups. Jade Druid can take a win off of anything.
Well, the problem with the Priest is that it relies on the fact that you need multiple Dragonlord operators.
Yeah.
And a timed Bookworm, an example. Oh wait, there's only 1 Bookworm and 1 Dragonfire Potion for Amnesiac in this deck.
He has 2 teched Golaka Crawlers again, so he's really targeting aggressive decks. And Jade Druid is not an aggressive deck. Noblord also has, other than the Jade Druid, a Pirate Warrior, so that would be a good matchup there for Amnesiac with the Golaka Crawlers.
He needs to keep the Priest at the end of the game.
Yeah, and then it is a Control Paladin for Noblord, and the Shaman has been banned. That was just a traditional Bloodlust token Shaman. So I think Amnesiac really wants to line up Pirate Warrior into Druid here, take that win, and then maybe Noblord cues the Mirror?
Well,
it's tough to say.
It's
It's a
tough to
tough
say,
call.
but
These
for-
guys know better than us.
for Amnesiac, it's definitely the plan to keep the Priest as a as the counter pick for the Pirate Warrior from Noblord, and actually the Shaman as well. So it's important to keep it, even if this matchup would be favored for priest against the Jade Druid, I feel like you can't really use it yet. 'Cause
Yeah,
if your
it's too
opponent just picks
valuable.
yeah, it's too valuable to actually keep it as a deck that can win 2 matches. So it's important to just play out with the Pirate Warrior right now, and it's actually, of course, fits in the plan, because Pirate Warrior should be favored against the Jade Druids unless the Jade Druid is just doing Druid things.
But then there's the thing. So Amnesiac has counters for the Druid and for the Warrior, but then there still is the N'Zoth control Paladin for Noblord. So Amnesiac needs to find a win with one of his 2 decks against that if all the other matches go according to Amnesiac's plan. So that's where, I mean, Noblord is at just a natural advantage now, obviously, because he has a 1-game advantage, but because Amnesiac is forced to counter and will be left with one deck that maybe doesn't get the matchup that he wants. So we're just taking a quick moment to fix something, and we will be getting back in to game number 2 of our top 16 matches very, very shortly. Looks like Noblord is ready to roll, ready to secure his spot in the top 8, but he has to get through Amnesiac first, and that is no small feat, Lothar.
Definitely not getting a top 8. I mean, again, I think top 16 is a good result enough to be proud of, and the difference between the top 16 and the top 8 is just the fact that you play on day 3. So that's the difference, in my opinion, and the fact that all of the top 8 matches are being streamed. But I'm kind of taking a look at Amnesiac's deck here, the Warrior, and it seems pretty standard for nowadays Pirate Warrior decks. 1 Spellbreaker, 1 Bittertide Hydra, and 1 Captain Greenskin, of course. Those are the top-notch picks for the current metagame, I would say.
So no Leroy. I know we were
Leroy,
seeing
yeah.
less and less Leroy, but there still was a couple of the Pirate Warrior decks that we had seen on stream that did include it. It seems like Bittertide Hydra has kind of just taken the spot.
Yeah, and the same goes for Captain Greenskin, because there's a lot of there's more matchups where a potential weapon swings the matchup in your favor because it's just a damage that cannot be stopped.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, most likely. The only thing that can stop him is a taunt minion or a frostbolt to the face. But in most situations, against an example of Priest, we have seen that when Caravaggio was playing against Zalei, a weapon is just a death wish for classes that are being reliant on removal for minions.
Weapons are what really sets the Pirate Warrior apart from any other aggressive deck.
Yeah.
It's what gives them the source of repetitive damage that, say, Aggro Druid and Token Shaman don't have access to.
And look at this situation. This is exactly what we were talking about. Amnesiac has the option to curve out with the Fear War Axe on turn 1 because he has the coin. Then turn 2 is the Raider. That is actually a really big minion. A 5/3 minion on turn 2 brings out the patches. If his opponent doesn't have a Wrath, and he'll just commit to Wild Growth, and then maybe just, you know, for the Jade Blossom. That is like a typical opening for the Jade Druid. He has all the time in the world and all the minions in the world to actually get the benefit of the Cultist on curve on turn 3. And that builds up the Fear War Axe to a formidable 4-attack pre-durability.
Noblord does have a couple of tools to be able to counteract that, the Gluttonous Ooze namely, but he will need to find swipes, wraths, taunt minions, something else to remove the 4 health minions that Amnesiac has, well, I guess 4 health minion in this case, as well as the other pirates that then will be buffed by the South Sea Captain. So a really, really strong start for Amnesiac. Noblord's start is strong in its own right, but as the Jade Druid, you kind of need to have the Pirate Warrior falter a little bit for you to have a really good chance.
Now, this is an interesting turn. Amnesiac just played the Fear War Axe without fear. It might be, you know, met with the demise of the Ooze, but it's still just a 1 card in the entire deck that destroys a weapon, so the chances of that happening are not that high. Noblord has the Ooze, but now he has to ask himself, do I want to play it right now?
This would almost telegraph a little bit to me that Amnesiac would have second Fiery War Axe if I was Noblord, because he would seem very willing to sacrifice the first one in my mind. And I think maybe there's something a little bit fishy about that, but it turns out Amnesiac just has no fear of weapon removal, and he's going to get a little bit punished there, but he still has access to the Rusty Hook off of the N'Zoth's first mate, so he can still get some use out of the upgrade abilities in hand.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm just kind of surprised he didn't opt for the coin Fury War Axe and just be with have the aggressive opener with the Raider. He seems kind of slow in this regards. Maybe that's his plan. Maybe that's what works the best against the Dread Druids in this case. He just wants to have a big swing turn with a coin that he will guarantee an upgrade from the cult as an example. Or he was thinking more about the Saltage Captain on turn 2 maybe in some situation if for some reason Noblord would just innervate something and then Dread Golem would be a 1-1, then you have a good trade. Not sure about that.
Amnesiac is a very patient Pirate Warrior player. I've seen him play a lot of this deck, and he tends to go about it quite a bit differently than you would anticipate traditional Pirate Warrior matches going. He's very patient. He makes the absolute most out of all of his resources. And I think we're just seeing that a little bit here. He didn't go full out coin 2-drop into 2-drop into 3-drop in the early game, even though I'm sort of with you, Lothar. I think I would have myself gone ahead and done that because you think of Jade Druid, you need to put on pressure early on.
Yeah.
That's what the Pirate Warrior is best at. So maybe missing a little bit of an opportunity to do that. But if Amnesiac can utilize the coin to have a swing turn of, say, 2-3 drops, or on turn 4, the Raider and the Cultist, then it is possible that Noblord will simply be overwhelmed.
That is correct. The passive way of playing Pirate Warrior is actually very fitting to the wild edition of it.
Yeah.
Because then you have
Ship's
ship's
cannon and
cannons.
go all out.
And those are pretty insane. So
If you thought Pirate Warrior was good in Standard, check out Wild for a couple of games.
It's pretty
You'll
sweet.
see where Pirate Warrior really can do.
but at the same time, there are decks that are just crushing Pirate Warrior. So it's balanced.
Locket Crawler is good across all formats.
All right, well, this is the turn when Amnesia can start buffing up his weapon and start dealing the damage if he would like to.
It is very unusual. It's turn 6 for Noblord, and he's still at 32 health.
I mean,
You
not
go
turn
into-
6. He used Wild Growth and
Yeah,
Blossom.
6 mana, but so essentially he's playing like it's turn 6, but he can Behemoth when he hasn't even taken any damage.
Yeah. It is kind of rough for Amnesiac to go through that. He has access to 5 mana if he'll use the coin, so he can, an example, play the Cultist and then the Raider. He goes instead for the Saltage Captain to have a bigger patch so it doesn't die to a swipe.
This builds the most resilient board state.
Yes.
And the minions that Amnesiac has access to will need to get quite a bit of repetitive damage since he did forego the first couple of turns to get really aggressive.
Now Noblord has access to Wrath, which allows him to play something else than the Behemoth. He was actually kind of like on a path to play the Behemoth because it makes sense, but now with the access to Wrath, he can kill the Saltage Captain and still develop a board. And when he's at steady 30 HP, I think he can allow himself to just wait a little bit more.
Yeah, you can take a little bit of damage here. You have that Liberty, and you have Earthen Scales in hand with an additional copy in deck and 2 copies of Feral Rage. So the Druid can gain a whole lot of health in this matchup, and they will need to be able to withstand the damage that the Pirate Warrior can put out there.
Amnesia can actually play 3 cards up with his hand right now, because with each buff on the weapon, the cost of the Dreadcaster also comes down, so you can squeeze the Cultist, the upgrade, and the Dreadcaster at the same turn. But he doesn't want to commit to the upgrade because he feels like getting an upgrade on an Arcanine Reaper or even a second Fury War Axe will be more important than just getting this Rusty Hook to 3 attack. Alright, well, this swipe is also impactful. Now, Noblord can actually clean 3 pirates from the board. If he wants to, of course. Other options would be just play the Behemoth and use the hero power to clean up Dread Corsair.
The Behemoth would summon a 3/3 Jade, I believe.
Yes.
So the thing with the swipe is that you do waste a couple of the mana.
It's not mana efficient and it's not tempo generating because you don't do anything as a follow-up to the swipe. So it would be amazing if you had like even a Jade Idol after the swipe.
Another Wrath would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
But all things considered, this is going pretty well for Noblord. He's drawn consecutive answers with the Wrath and then the swipe that he's very much needed.
Now Amnesiac needs to draw his heavy hitters. A Hydra or a Greenskin would be amazing.
Speak, and ye shall receive, Lothar. So Amnesiac can greenskin and upgrade, but does he want to go all in on a rusty hook? He gave up that Fiery War Axe so early, and it would have been so fantastic now.
Well, now I think he has to commit to the Greenskin, and that means that the upgrade probably going to get played as well. Depends on how much does he put weight on a draw, a potential draw of Arcanite Reaper. Because the thing is, when you play the Greenskin, you actually delay another weapon, even if you have it in your hand, for another turn. With the Greenskin and the upgrade, what you basically do, you add 2 turns of not playing weapons. If he's gonna draw weapons, then those will be just pointless.
They'll be bad draws now. So second War Axe, 2 Arcanite Reapers, and then Zoth's first mate are all pretty dead now that Amnesiac has committed to 4 turns of rusty hook swinging.
That is correct, but at the same time, it's pretty damn good to have a Greenskin and upgrade in 1 turn and just increase the output from the rusty hook. Not only this turn by 2, but also by 2 in 2 more consecutive turns.
So Noblord has a choice between playing Earthen Scales this turn and playing Jade Idol.
Wider board, better board.
Yeah, Earthen Scales could have gone onto the 3/3 Golem to challenge Greenskin if Amnesiac had a Southsea Deckhand or a Heroic Strike to get through the Jade Behemoth.
Oh, wow. Oh, my. What an insane draw. Not because it's a Cochrane lead, it's just because of the fact that he is curving out.
Yeah, but it's still pretty awkward. Cultist comes down and the weapon goes to 5. 5 attack weapon's pretty good, but not in the face of a 6 health taunt. So you're still going to need to commit 2 sources of damage just to killing the Jade Behemoth. And then everything else on your board is really fragile to the golems that are on Noblord's side.
Yeah, that is correct, but it's still the best what he could have get, basically, in this situation.
So Amnesiac now has the damage that he needs to win this game. He just needs to hope that Noblord has no more health gain and no more no more taunts.
Fortunately for Noblord, there's the 1 Earthen Scale that not only gives him... Oh my god.
Okay.
Well, that is pretty insane.
Things are looking pretty good now, and there's good old Yogg, just in case you need him. But I think Noblord's already in a pretty fine position. That weapon, however, is still looming. 3 turns of that weapon is 15 damage, and Amnesiac can pick up an additional Heroic Strike, a second Kor'kron Elite. He can still close this game out pretty quickly.
Well, he has the option to clear the entire board. He can use his face to tank the Greenskin. That's a lot of damage, by the way. If you don't do this, then the Greenskin needs to die from a minion of your own in the upcoming turn. I'm actually not sure about using the second Earthen Scale this turn, but the draw from the Auctioneer is actually worth more than anything else. So I feel like you have to commit to the Earthen Scales right now.
In which case, you're going to go ahead and use that before hero powering in case you pick up Innervate
Wrath.
or something off. Yeah, Innervate or Wrath would have been fantastic there.
Wrath would be amazing because then he's allowed to kill the Greenskin without taking damage. The second Earthen Scale was actually important to have another minion on the board. Otherwise, he would have to use the 3/3 minion to challenge the Cochrane Elite. In this case, he could have switched the priority of attacking with the 5/5 into 4/3 instead of the 3/4. So he has more minion on board, and it doesn't really matter if your minion has 1 or 2 or 3 HP, because
Yeah.
all the sources of damage coming from Amnesiac have more attack than that.
It is unfortunate that the way Noblord spread out those earthen scales and committed those attacks means that the primordial drake that he picked up off of the earthen scales from Gadgetson will now kill his 2 minions on board. But he does need to play that primordial drake to soak up the rest of those rusty hook swings. And now with a second one as well, I think that this game is pretty much Noblord's.
Yeah, Amnesiac is running low on a health, 12 total. And I don't think there's enough power in his deck unless this draw is a Hydra to plow through. And this
No.
is a dead draw. You already have that on the board, but it's with a different graphic, with a different artwork.
Different picture, essentially the same thing. Noblord going up to a 2-0 lead over Amnesiac. The young savage seriously struggling to take down this Jade Druid. And I have been sort of saying it all weekend, I expected to see more Druid sweeps. Up until now, it's been a lot of paladin, a lot of shaman, and a lot of warrior. But now we're seeing the true power of the Druid from Noblord.
Yeah, I don't feel really that comfortable with putting like a doubt into Amnesiac's decision of turn 1 when he just passed.
Yeah.
I really feel like that was a decision that could have cost him the game. Because if you just go for turn 1 Fear Warx, turn 2 Raider, a 5-3 Raider actually, and that if that wouldn't be met with a ref, he would have been so far ahead. And even not only that, but he would also build up the momentum with the Soul Sea Captain and the Cultist on top of that. And also the Fear Warx will most likely deal some damage because the Gluttonous Ooze was 2 turns behind.
Yeah, that is a sequence of plays that I really would like to ask Amnesiac about, because I am more than sure that he has solid reasoning behind why he played that game the way that he did. But to me, it didn't seem obvious. But then again, Amnesiac never really makes the obvious plays when it comes to Pirate Warrior. He plays the game very patiently, and he's a master of the deck. He's been playing it very well all weekend. So that one unfortunately didn't play out well for him, and Noblord did take the win, but Amnesiac still has the chance to reverse sweep. He's gonna have to do it with Priest though, and a Priest that is teched heavily against aggro, going up against a Jade Druid. It's not what you wanna see.
If he's gonna make it and win with the Priest against the Jade Druid, then it's like from top of the hill, you know, downhill, basically.
It gets easier after he gets through this.
Yes, it's get easier, but this is the most important matchup for the Priest because it's the most difficult one. It's the toughest one. If he doesn't make it, he's just being swept by Jade Druid, and that's not something that you know, you'll ever want to see.
Amnesiac made it to top 16 at DreamHack Austin for some context, and then he was beaten immediately and didn't make it to top 8. So if he were to lose to Noblord here, this would be pretty much history repeating itself, and that is not what Amnesiac wanted going into this. At DreamHack Austin, he was in 16th place and just barely made the cut to make it into the single elimination bracket. This time, he was in 4th. He had a much better showing in the Swiss with an 8-1 record. Noblord, I believe, was at 7-2. So it's unfortunate how the seedings work out, and for Amnesiac to go down in the top 16 of this tournament again, he wouldn't be too happy about that.
Did we actually have a perfect score from the Swiss?
We did not.
Okay.
There were 4 8-1s, and then I believe 11 7-2s, and I think 1 6-3 that did actually make it in, and I think it was Chalky.
That lucker.
I know, even
Right?
put it on Twitter. Yeah, I think Chalky was the 6-3 that made it in, 11 7-2s, and then the 4 8-1s. So no perfect score in the Swiss round for this tournament. We had one for DreamHack Austin. Was there one at DreamHack Valencia?
No, it was a clean cut.
Okay.
All of the players, first of all, it was 10 rounds because we had 280
Yes.
players.
It's
288, actually. And because of the fact that some people actually dropped out, funnily enough, it was Orange who did dropped out an example of having 1-2 score, and other players that dropped out made it possible to make a clean cut. So every single person that had A2 went into the top 16.
That's really nice. I'm sure that Chalky at 6-3 though is very happy that there wasn't a clean cut at this tournament, and I certainly am happy to see Chalky as one of the big names in the top 16 because DreamHack Valencia had some big names in top 16, but none of them made it to the top 8. So I'm sure that many of the people at home and the fans of these big names, like Amnesiac, are hoping to see some of their favorite players make it all the way through and eventually one of them win it. We had Harry Seldon winning at DreamHack Valencia and then Orange at DreamHack Summer earlier this year. But we are about to get into game number 3 of the match between Amnesiac and Noblord. Can Noblord complete the sweep with his Jade Druid, and can Amnesiac prevent the sweep with his Dragon Priest with 2 copies of Golakka Crawler? This is going to be tough.
Yeah, it's gonna to be tough, but if Amnesiac makes it right now, the sweep, the reverse sweep, is possible. Just for some context, because people might just wondering why did we talk about Chalky so much. He's the champion of DreamHack Austin from previous year. So it's pretty cool to see him in another top 16. All right, so this is the unfortunate matchup for Amnesiac, and his opening hand is not really spelling anything good for him. No early game board control, no minions. Even Golakka Crawler would have been okay.
Noblord with the full keep on Jade Blossom, Jade Spirit, Gadgetzin, Wild Growth. I think that Wild Growth, Jade Blossom, Jade Spirit are perfect to keep, but Noblord keeping the Gadgetzin is acknowledging that Jade Druid is going to need significant card draw to be able to get the resources necessary to get ahead and speed up the late game for the Druid to be able to battle the mid-range minions from Amnesiac. I love this keep from Noblord.
Oh, it's especially important with the Auctioneer, because of the fact that he sacrifices 2 cards for ramping up. So both Wild Growth and Jade Blossom are decreasing his card advantage, but he's able to buy it back with the Auctioneer. So very good keep.
He's got the best deals anywhere. Why wouldn't you want to buy it back with him?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for humoring me, Lothar. Firebat never would.
Well, I don't know why. We will have to ask him why
I
is he
think
like
I'm
that.
funny. I'm probably wrong, but that's okay. So we've been casting all day, it's getting a little bit late, and I'm sure these guys are tired, but they are still playing their absolute hearts out because the winner of this match is through to the top 8 and will be part of a streamed match tomorrow. And of course, there's additional prize money for every match you win from here on out. $675 plus a couple of HCT points just for getting to the top 16. But for top 8, I believe it's $1,100. So you definitely want to keep getting these wins.
For Amnesiac, those points are very important because, as Lorinda said,
Yes.
Amnesiac is 4 points behind Muzzy for the first place
Yep.
in the overall point standings. So getting to the top 8 or even higher is actually a big deal for him.
Amnesiac has yet to qualify for Worlds this year, and the #1 points earner in each region will just get an automatic spot at the World Championships.
Adu was pretty salty about that.
Yeah, I'm sure he would have had it last
joking
year.
because, yeah, last year he would just have it.
Poor guy.
He died for
this
this.
time around. RDU died for our Amnesiac to make it through.
All right, well, this is the turn when Amnesia can drop the Twilight Drake, but he has to think about the synergy with the dragons. If he's gonna pick up a Dragon Operative, he still has the Bookworm, so he can commit to the Twilight Drake that will have 7 HP. 7 HP is quite a lot, especially when he's facing minions with 2 and 1 and 3 attack, basically. So it's gonna be traded for the entire board, most likely. So I wouldn't mind the Twilight Drake, but he goes instead for the Priest of the Feast, which has enough damage to trade with those minions anyway.
You have to keep the Twilight Drake in hand if you want your Bookworm to guaranteed be active on turn 6. The Dragon Priest, this build at least, is running very few dragons, so there's no guarantee that your Bookworm goes off on turn 6 if you play the Twilight Drake on turn 4.
Yep. And look at that, the conscious play of Gadgetzin on turn 6 because there's no answer. There's no answer for the auctioneer, but turns out
There's one answer.
there's one card in the entire deck from Amnesiac that guarantees to do something about the auctioneer. And now Noblord is like, oh my god, why did I play that 4/4 minion? He is being punished, but at the same time, I, in my opinion, the decision was correct.
Oh, it was absolutely correct. The Gadgetzin would have been silenced no matter what. That's Amnesiac has Cabal Songstealer in here for Doomsayer, Spike Ridge Steed. Gadgetzin is much lower on the totem pole of targets for silence, but it's still getting the job done here. It's definitely good enough. And Noblord didn't have anything else to do if he'd waited with the Gadgetzin and decided to play it later on. It was much better now.
Yeah, definitely correct.
Hindsight's 20/20 after all.
11. 11 out of 10.
11 out of 10 play. Well done.
It's actually a joke in the guitar community. This one goes to the 11, but
Yeah.
never to.
Spinal Tap.
Oh, I'm kind of impressed now.
This one goes to 11. But why don't you just put it to 10 and make 10 louder? But
All right, well,
movie memes for another day.
exactly. Noblord with 2 minions that have 4 attack. That's kind of unfortunate
Priest Killer.
for Amnesiac. How does he deal with those? He needs to deal damage and then finish it up with the Primordial Dragon. That's not so easy. The Wrath was gonna act as a cycle because Noblord is...
Okay, well that's
Desperate.
pretty good.
He is desperate for card advantage, but getting that auctioneer right now is pretty key. The thing is, if he wants to play the Earthen Scales, one of those minions gonna end up with 5 attack. And then they're gonna die. Huh, interesting. Trades up without playing the auctioneer.
I think he wants just to have the mana freed up for next turn. You can Gadgetzin Auctioneer, Innervate, and
okay.
hopefully whatever else you draw will be active.
Well,
I think the only thing that wouldn't be would be yogg-saron and 6 drops. So a lot to do next turn with Noblord deciding not to play Gadgetzin this turn.
you would play into the Dragonfire potion, so that would be kind of bad. But at the same time, he forgot the 1 card cycle from the auctioneer because he played the Earthen Scales this turn. We're gonna see. It has the merits, like both decisions would be okay, I would say. Even the overextending into the Dragonfire potion, I think it's a viable choice because Amnesiac is only playing 1. And we did see 1 Shadow Vision already, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow. So Amnesiac has to expend Shadow Word Death onto a 5/1 Golem. These Golems are going to get a lot bigger than 5/1, but Amnesiac needs to mitigate this board now. What he has is a resource advantage. He's taken down 1 Gadgetzin Auctioneer, but he hasn't seen any Nourish, and there's still 1 Gadgetzin left that I'm sure Amnesiac is not too happy to see right now. And with the Feral Rage, Noblord can even get this Twilight Drake off the board. So 1 copy of Dragonfire Potion is the only thing in Amnesiac's deck that can kill this Gadgetzin.
Apart from Shadow Vision into Dragonfire Potion. Oh.
Man, you're good at this today.
Yeah, that's usually what I do. And then I just like, why can I do that for my own games?
Why can't I just call all my draws?
Well, will he do it? That's the question. Like, first of all, what are the chances? Amnesiac has 1 Potion of Madness, 1 Power Word Shield. No, sorry, Power Word Shields are out. So Potion of Madness, 2nd Shadow Vision, if I'm not mistaken, 1 Shadow Word Death left. And well, that is unfortunate.
That's heartbreaking.
Because
he can still play at least the Trailblazer this
He
turn.
only had 4 spells left in the entire deck.
Yeah, that was a very unlikely miss for Amnesiac, but Noblord looks very happy about that. Amnesiac now just desperately hoping that Noblord doesn't have any spells in hand.
Actually, I'm sorry, there was 1 more Power Word Shield because the second one that played already was from the first Shadow Vision.
Yes. Oh, and the wild growth off the top. That's going to be 3 cards for 2 mana for Noblord. Now the resources are going to be all evened up or even in the favor of Noblord. And Amnesiac won't be able to deal with the Jade Golems going forward.
That is insane. The card advantage that was just generated by this auctioneer is completely bonkers.
Seeing a 2-turn Gadgetzin is really, really rare nowadays. And Amnesiac picks up one of his anti-aggro techs. Glocka Crawler is great against Pirate Warrior, but he just couldn't get past this Jade Druid, and now he's running out of playable minions. He's got a pack still in the deck, but I believe he played both Shadow Visions already.
Yeah, he did.
So he's limited to 1 Ungoro pack.
And he didn't want to play the Elise first because he was fishing for that Dragonfire potion. So it's quite unfortunate, because maybe that pack would give him the out. Nourish for an additional innervate and 4-card draw. Now the Jade Atlas is being drawn. Man, this is gonna be nuts.
And this Gadgetzin has more than done its job.
Because now it's all about Jade Golems. The rest of the cards that Noblord has in his deck are not important. Everything comes down to just have big enough Jade Golems on the board to finish up the game.
Oh my goodness, and he even picks up the 2nd Wrath to be able to draw 2 more cards and kill the Primordial Drake. Another Jade Idol. Holy, Jade Druid is going off right now. That is what happens when you leave Gadgetzin Auctioneer up. And unfortunately, Amnesiac didn't have an option. First Draconid Operative of the game picked up, but too little too late. Not to mention, Draconid Operative can hit some really poor options in the Druid deck, and there are only 2 cards left.
Although, there are probably around 8 cards left in the deck.
There's a lot of Jade Idols in there.
It's pretty sweet. It's kind of funny to see that.
And now, since Noblord saw 2 cards pop up, he knows that he's got a bunch of Jade Idols and an Aya, but still infinite resources to work with. Quite literally.
Yeah. It is pretty sad for Amnesiac. It seems like he is gonna be losing this one, and a complete sweep with a Jade Druid. We have seen this already in Valencia. The Jade Druid was a power to be, you know, thoughtful about.
Yeah, Jade Druid.
You need to respect your Jade Druids, but you also need to respect Shaman and Paladin and Warrior, and eventually something is going to catch you off guard. Unfortunate for Amnesiac, but he is not going to be moving on. Noblord going to the top 8 of DreamHack Atlanta Hearthstone Grand Prix with a 3-0 sweep over the Young Savage.
Lorinda, what do you have to say about this match?
That was insane. I was expecting that to go to 3-2.